Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with a rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Hello folks, TFG and Mike here, and this is the Pull Bag's 113th episode overall. I wanted to make this the Halloween episode. I wanted to get some sort of Halloween-y type comics to review, and as most of you may know, I'm not too much into the horror genre at all. I wanted this to be fun. It is going to be very fun, folks. So I picked two comics that I thought were going to be very Halloween-ish. Apparently, I should have picked a different comic. I wanted Nicole, Hale, and I to talk about Mars Attacks Popeye, and I wanted Jeremy Fein and I to talk about Angel's Masks. Angel Masks is a single-issue, 4-story comic, came out from IDW a couple of years ago, which it deals with more of Puppet Angel. You remember Jeremy and I did Angel's Smile Time adaptation in episode 99 of the Pull Bag. Well, this is kind of a continuation of that, except it's only one story that deals with Puppet Angel himself. What I should have done was I should have got Jeremy together with me, and I should have got Angel Masks and the Puppet Spike comic that they did from IDW. But it is what it is. I had fun recording both reviews here that you'll hear today, so please enjoy this not-so-Halloween episode of the Bull Bag, I guess. Let's get to it, folks. First up is Popeye, or more aptly known as Mars Attacks Popeye.
The Sailor Man. I'm strong to the finish, 'cause I eat me spinach. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Alright folks, as I said in the intro, this is episode 113 of the Pull Bag. This is the Halloween episode for 2015. Of course, I am TFG and Mike, as you know. Joining me for this first part of the episode is Nicole, Beatlesdiva Hailstorm. Hello.
Bonjour. Aloha. Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Are you losing your mind yet?
No, I'm losing my shit. Literally. Literally, people.
Oh boy. So, as you heard in the intro that I did on this episode, basically, we were going to... Originally, this episode 113 of the Pull Bag, was originally just going to be Mars Attacks Popeye. And then I'm like, well, by the time we actually got to this episode now, I'm like, oh, well, Halloween's right around the corner. And I found the trade, or whatever it is, the single issue of IDW's Angel's Masks thing with Puppet Angel and whatever else. And we had already done Smile Time, so I'm like, oh, okay. We'll make it a double whammy Halloween thing. And surprisingly, the Mars Attacks Popeye really isn't all that Halloween themed at all.
It's Martians.
Yeah.
It goes with Halloween.
At least it's not zombies, thank God. Oh, God. So...
I mean, look at the cover of this thing. It's amazing.
It is. Very much it is. The cover is Popeye, the Martians.
Poor Olive Oil is getting it. She's getting zapped.
When isn't she getting zapped? You know, the only thing that's missing from this comic is Bluto. Where the hell is Bluto?
He arranged it all.
Oh, well...
No, honestly, I like that they had a different bad guy in this besides Bluto, because that would be too,
on the nose.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like that they brought the sea hag in. So
So this is written by Martin Powell. The art, colors, and lettering is done by Terry Beatty. And the edits were Cecilia Gassoni and Craig Yo. Or you, I don't know. Whatever. Popeye in Mars Attacks, Panic from the Sky. We have Olive Oil, we have Eugene the Jeep, we have Alice the Goon, we have the Sea Hag, we have Professor...
What's the nozzle?
Thank you. We have Castor Oil, we have Poop Deck Pappy, we have the Goons, we have Wimpy, and we have the Martians along with Popeye. And how long ago was this released?
It was the same year as Mars Attacks Transformers, so that would have been 3 years ago, or 2 years ago,
2012.
March. Yep.
2013 then. Okay.
No, maybe it was 2012.
Okay.
Oh, that's crazy. Because the series came out, and the series is so awesome. They also have Mars Attacks Kiss, which is awesome. So, and of course, Mars Attacks Transformers. I mean, it's
which we had already done.
Yeah,
we've done Mars Attacks Transformers, and you had suggested to do this, and
it came out in January 2013. That's right.
Okay. Because I know they're going for the classic Popeye style with the art here, but just looking at the cover, I was expecting something more along the lines of what the cover art is.
Well, the cover art, this is how all five of the single issues came out. It had the same cover artist do it. I don't know why they didn't give credit to the cover artist here. It's weird. But they all had that same type of feel to it. And it is supposed to look like a trading card, because back in the day, you could do Mars Attack trading cards. So that's why it has like a number 29 on it and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I don't have a I'm just saying the interior art isn't what I was expecting.
Well, no, because they with the Mars Attacks, this whole little spot, they use their typical their own artists. So like the Transformers, I forgot. Dang it, who's one?
That's okay.
Who? But they used it like their Transformers artists, or Mars Attacks Kiss. They used the Kiss artists. So it's nothing shocking to me. So
no, it's not shocking. I was just like, I wasn't expecting it to be like an actual episode of the cartoon as far as the styling goes. I was expecting it to be a little bit more modern, like what the cover looks like. Yeah. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. So we start off with one stormy night. Yay, folks.
Oh wait, Snoopy's writing this.
That's yeah.
You know Snoopy, that's how he starts off. It's a dark, stormy night.
Yep.
Yay for Snoopy.
Yay for Snoopy. So we start off with Olive Oil and her papa, and her Popeye's papa, I don't know, whatever.
That's her papa.
Oh, okay.
Popeye's dad, you'll see later on.
Comes later, yeah. It's the beard that threw me off.
Every single bearded man looks the same to you.
No, only when they're white. When the beard color is white.
Oh,
not.
Gotcha. They all look like wizards to you.
Oh boy. So we start out with a dark and stormy night, and Olive is basically saying she doesn't like thunderstorms, and she just feels that something bad's gonna happen. And her dad says, "Oh, turn up the radio. This is my favorite program before you go to bed." Of course, he ends up falling asleep before he even can hear it. And then the Martians show up.
People.
That's right. I know, right? So the Martians show up. Apparently, they can't even use the ACK. I mean, come on. They could have used ACK instead of all the symbol signs for that. I don't know.
But that's also a Popeye thing.
Yeah.
So
I guess.
No, because that's usually if they need like some kind of what, not really a curse word, that they'll use that in the Popeye.
Well, yeah, I mean, they use that in a lot of things, but I'm just saying because this is supposedly from the Mars Attacks franchise, the movie, and all that stuff, I was just expecting it to be a little bit more movie accurate.
Ah, gotcha.
So the aliens arrive. They're basically cursing at this laughing hag, and we see that it is the sea hag with her vulture. Why is it every evil woman in any fantasy like this has to have an evil vulture on their shoulder?
They're not always vultures. They have cats. Vultures are very smart.
Yeah. Somehow I don't think Cinderella's stepmother would work in this story. Neither would Lucifer.
Lucifer's awesome.
Yeah. So we have the sea hag here. She expected them to come, and she shows them this shiny thing, and it kind of reminds me of, maybe if I give them an energon goodie, they'll reciprocate.
It looks like a 20-sided die to me.
Yeah.
roll your initiative.
Boy. But apparently they will not have any will of their own, since she put a hex on them. And apparently we have a next fine morning, and we have Popeye. Now, I will say that the writer on this did a dang good job with getting Popeye's speech down.
His little lisp and his way of talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a good job with the wording.
Mm-hmm. So they figure out something terrible has happened, and the house is gone, everything's gone, and but guess what? Everyone's safe. They're in the storm cellar.
Yep.
Well, blow me down. Oh, boy.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
That's Popeye for you.
I know, and I can so hear the voice in my head as he's speaking, so that's fun.
See, that shows you that the writing is good on this, because you can actually hear the voice that it's supposed to be. So.
Yep. And when you find out that they've been attacked by Martians, what's a Marshkin?
What's a Marshkin? I like that.
And of course, Pappy tries to explain it, and Popeye still doesn't get it.
No, it's not Pappy. That's
it's the professor.
What's the Yeah.
The professor tries to explain it, and Popeye still doesn't get it. And apparently they have a fourth dimensional dog named Jeep.
He's been around for a while. Jeep's been around for a while.
I don't remember Jeep in any of the cartoons, but okay.
Oh, he was in the comics back in the day. Way back in the day. So.
So what do we think so far here?
I think right now it's a good setup. You know who the bad guy is. You're just waiting for it to happen. You know that they're in distress. Poor Olive Oil. You know, she's being Olive Oil. And
poor Olive Oil. Famous last words. That woman. I swear.
I just love the professor here. Professor What's the Nozzle. He makes this whole big explanation about what Martians are, and then Popeye's just like, what's a Martian? Like,
yeah, what's a Martian?
I love
and Professor What's the Nozzle even does, a face palm too.
It's like,
so awesome. So we get to Jeep getting in board the Martian ship and finding a guns, because the whole point of the plot here is they want to reverse engineer the ray.
So it doesn't kill. So.
Yes. And 2 Martians come upon him, and he essentially just lets them crack their domes together.
I love it. Correct.
And then we get back to Professor, and he really sounds like He sounds like Adam West here.
The professor?
Yeah, Eureka, now off to my laboratory, provided it's still standing, and science will defeat these dastardly usurpers yet.
And this is one of the typical. You actually have to read this. Popeye's response. It's a typical Popeye-ish kind of thing, where they
It's a
actually,
thought bubble,
where they have a picture of a screw and a ball. I think it's so funny.
It's kind of like the flag that Daffy wore in Duck Amuck when Bugs turned him into that purple thingamajig.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Part of Daffy's tail. Bugs turned Daffy's tail into a flagpole, and on the flag it had Screwball.
Yep. Good stuff.
You know better than that.
So much fun.
So Olive Oil's like, where are you going, Popeye? Marshkin or no Marshkin, I wins me fights with me fisks. And wow, he wins fights with the Kingpin? I don't know. I think the Kingpin could knock him for a loop.
I don't know. It depends if Popeye's head is spinach or not.
Yeah. So Popeye's gonna go do some fighting, and this is where we catch up to Pappy. And
Pappy's kind of a douchebag.
Yeah, at first he is anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But then again, he is old.
Yeah.
Old people are very set in their ways.
They don't know these young folk.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? I'll say, as I was reading this, the art has grown on me. I still wish it was a little bit more modern style, but I mean...
But if you picked up a Popeye comic off the shelf today, this is what it looks like.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, the Popeye comics look just like this.
Okay. So Popeye gets rejected by Pappy, and Pappy's not going to help him, and he's really mad about it. And this is where we meet Alice the Goon.
I love Alice. She's like an albino Bigfoot, I guess.
Oh God! Now all as I can see is a miniature Popeye in her hand. I have my own little bunny rabbit, George, and I'm going to love him and pet him and squeeze him.
Have you been watching Looney Tunes this week? I've been watching a lot of Looney Tunes.
Are you kidding me? Abominable Snowman. That I have that in my head all the time. Because I use the Gosh It's Hot image.
Uh-huh.
I use that every summer on Facebook. I posted it, I don't know, years and years and years ago, and the whole thing, absolutely, yeah. There are a lot of Looney Tunes cartoons I remember just off the tip of my tongue here. So Alice is pointing to her goons, and apparently the goons are also dogs because they speak in arf arf. So they now have themselves an army to face the Martians. And we have Wimpy volunteering. I don't know why.
Well,
I mean, he doesn't do anything for unless it's for a hamburger.
He's volunteering someone else.
That's true. So the professor has reverse engineered the gun and essentially just makes people naked.
I think
basically,
they take out the first layer of their clothing because they keep the underwear. So.
Yeah. Well, it essentially, it's a depantsing gun at this point.
It basically. Poor Castor. At least he was kind enough to give him his coat, the professor.
Yeah, that's true. So Popeye shows up with the army, and we then see the old the sea hag again with her vulture. And of course, Olive is so worried, and oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, it's the Martians, and oh boy. Olive oil. Ugh.
Oh.
I understand the plot line of Popeye, people. I get it. She's supposed to be a damsel in distress or a really big on warrior, and that's all well and good. Just once, I'd like to see Olive Oil step up and kick some ass. Just once.
She doesn't have the body mass to do so. That's why she has Popeye. He's taking all her body mass.
I'm sure she ate her spinach,
Oh, Popeye!
Oh, God. Do not even start, because now all I can think of is, oh, if only Amy was here, between you and Amy with, but Daddy. Oh, God. Oh, God. So...
I just always picture Shelley Duvall whenever I see Olive Oil, because she nailed that role, I tell you.
She did. She did. So we come face to face with Popeye and the Alice army and Sea Hag and her Martian army. And the Sea Hag says, Who are you to stand against me? Ready, aim, fire. And
I love this next battle. Well, it does tickle. Come on, that's funny. That's funny right there. As everyone is in their underwear.
Even one of the that's Alice herself.
Yeah,
I was
Alice.
Gonna say, why is one of them cross-dressing?
That's Alice.
Yeah, that's Alice. And the Sea Hag doesn't believe it, and of course, Popeye's his old saying, "I am what I am."
And I love that they get the classic onomatopoeias in here. Oh, wham, sock, smack.
Crack, pop, pow.
I love it. And this next panel, I love the Martians that are just goofing off. They're playing around with toys.
Yeah. This is outrageous, ridiculous, impossible. What are you dumb grunts waiting for? Begin Plan B.
I like that they're just poking stuff. I love it.
And then Plan B is a giant robot.
Yep. Because everything's better with robots. Yes.
Sometimes. It just depends.
No, you're wrong. I'm right. We'll leave it at that.
It just depends.
We'll take a poll.
No, we're not taking no poll.
Everything's better with robots. I actually think a couple of the goons got killed. Look at that. That's pretty vicious.
Yeah, that is. That's just not right.
Yeah. The one that got stepped on with the spikes underneath, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one, he's gone.
Wow. Ugh. There's goons all over the place. Always hard to find a good goon these days.
Unless you're talking hockey.
Well, not everyone can be Patrice Bergeron. All right, so the robots then start their attack on Popeye, and we have a bing bang boom.
Bong.
And they
Bing bang bong.
Bong.
As he gets smashed into the ground.
Yep. And then after this, Pappy shows up while Popeye is just, laying on the beach in the sand here.
Pappy doesn't like to see his little boy get hurt. Let's just say.
No, obviously not. And he bonks the Sea Hag all the way back to the sea. And he pulls up Popeye, and they're going to smash them. Oh no, the Sea Hag wants them to smash them, but then they're pretty much gonna ruin the day here.
Yep.
Now, wait a minute. Does only one foot of the robots have spikes? Because the one that Pappy's lifting has spikes. The one that Popeye lifts does not.
Huh. Good question. I did not. There's in the next panel.
Look at the panel where he says, where Pappy says, "I be what I be, poop deck Pappy, pride of the the
I think
passive
only
aggressive.
some. Okay, if you go to the next page, where you see the 2 robots falling,
Oh,
some
I
of them have
see.
spikes, some of them do not. It depends if they are operated by a Martian or not.
So here's the thing, folks. What I see what happened now is Pappy has one, Popeye has the other robot. So it's not this. They're not after the same robot.
Yeah,
Like it isn't Pappy grabbing the right leg and Popeye grabbing the left
yeah.
leg. It's two. Okay, it's
They're
two
2 different
separate.
robots, and the ones that are
Yeah.
controlled by the Martians have the flat feet. The robots who are, I guess, sentient themselves, I guess,
hmm
have the spikes.
hmm Um. So we have a giant Krang in this panel.
Ah, Krang.
It's too bad the big pink brain wasn't in here.
That'd be awesome.
Um, we have a bling and a blam, and they're
Beady
between
bang boom.
Popeye. Yep. Bitty bang boom. That's
See,
awesome.
I love these automatopoeias. They're so just simple and sweet and just fun.
The Marshkins are down for the count, Pappy. I says they is. What's a Marshkin?
I could just hear them talking. It's so fun.
And the Sea Hag is upset as usual. And the Martians aren't going to take it anymore. The Sea Hag to me in this episode, in this issue of the comic here, reminds me of Chief Harold Lutz from Beverly Hills Cop 2. He was the chief that was always abusive to Rosewood and Taggart, always yelling at them and everything else. And this kind of reminds me of that, where she's always yelling at them and calling them worthless, gutless gargoyles. They don't even look like gargoyles. And where's Goliath when you really need him? But anyway, so the Martians decide to essentially turn on her and zap her.
I love it.
I guess it's a good thing she didn't die.
Well, the thing is, they zap her. They leave her clothesless, and she's now got to face the rest of the city or rest of the townsmen without her vulture. Doesn't look like the vulture. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, I don't know where the vulture went.
She's very vulnerable right now, and she got what she.
I don't know. I kind of wish they would have done a little bit more homaging to the movie. Like at the end of this, I wish her head was in a jar next to Pierce Brosnan or something. Like seriously.
But you gotta remember, Popeye is still a young reader's comic.
I know.
So.
Well, I mean, Mars Attacks was. I mean, what was? Oh God, when was that? 95, 96? Oh my God, that movie's almost 20 years old now. I mean that movie wasn't specifically for adults. I mean, kids could watch it. I mean, I wouldn't, maybe 11, 12-year-olds most likely. I don't know. That movie doesn't. I remember that movie fairly well. It doesn't seem like there were too many adult-themed. There were some, but I don't know.
It could get kind of violent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why it's PG-13, though.
True. Mars Attacks Popeye, you had recommended this to me, saying it was really, really funny.
It's funny.
Well, it is funny. It's not as good as Mars Attacks Transformers.
Well, I'm sorry. I've got to say this. Mars Attacks Transformers is up there probably in my top 10 comics of all time. I'm not kidding. That one shot, every panel was a gem. It was golden. And people, it's so much fun. But this whole series, this Mars Attacks, the IDW universe, it was just so much fun. It's simple, but it gives you laughs. It gives you a fun adventure. I mean, you could share it with people. That's why I like this series, and I wish they would do it again. Mars Attacks, the IDW universe is awesome.
Yes, it is. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for us. We're going to take a quick break and come back with probably Jeremy Fein and I talking Angel masks after this.
Bye-bye.
Oh my God. Angel, you're cute.
Fred, don't.
Oh, but the little hands. And the hair.
Hey, you're fired.
All right, folks, we are back in the first half of this Halloween episode here inside the Pull Bag, episode 113. You heard Nicole, Hale, and I talk about Mars Attacks Popeye, which surprisingly is not very Halloween. But this time around, in part 2 of this episode, or in the second half of this episode, I've got Jeremy Fein back. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
And we're going to be talking about IDW's Angel Masks. This, at first, when I first saw this on Comixology, I thought it was a trade. Well, it is a trade, sort of, but I thought it was like a whole bunch of random issues. It's actually, well, it is a bunch of random stories, but it's basically 4 stories with 4 different characters from the Angel universe. The last time you and I talked about Angel, we talked about Smile Time from IDW, which is the comic adaptation of the season 5 episode. And, most people that know me, that know that I love Angel, one of my favorite things is season 5 Smile Time. And anytime Puppet Angel or Puppet Spike or whatever are around, I'm like, oh, that's super cool. So I saw this thing on, like I said, Comixology, and I'm like, oh, Puppet Angel with his sword holding a pumpkin. That feels Halloween-y to me, and that, that could work. And it somewhat is their scary stories, but they're all little vignettes. They're all little one-shots. There is a bit of continuity with the final story, even though the final story I just don't care about because the art in it is just horrible. The Lindsay story, it doesn't even look like, at least telling stories with Puppet Angel or Puppet Spike, you can use Boreanaz's puppet style, you can use Marster's puppet style, but some of these other stories that are not the puppet story, just the artist totally screwed up the way Angel and some of the other characters are supposed to look. Like, I understand an artist interpretation and all that, but Jesus Christ, just ugh.
Again, I was never a huge fan of Angel. I did watch Smile Time. I channel changed back then, and I watched it again on Netflix. As I read the comic now, I think out of the 4 stories, I don't know if they're trying to take something from Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons or Tales from the Crypt. I love those anthology books, by the way, but this, to me, other than the first story that makes sense, if you're not familiar or remember the characters, because unless you were a huge fan in the 90s of Angel and Buffy and watching on Netflix, I don't think anybody remembers any of the other characters or what they were really about, and that's going to be a problem.
Well, for me, because, Angel, specifically Angel, ran from 99 to 2004, so that was late 90s, early 2000s, and, I actually just, 2-3 months ago, I spent 3 weeks in 1 month, and I watched all 5 seasons again, just because I needed something to watch, and I wanted to rediscover the series again. And it's one of those things where, for me, it's not so much I need reminding about the characters. 3 out of the 4 stories here are good to me. They're good. They're not excellent. They're good. They're passable. Like I said, the Lindsay story, well, I like the little bit of continuity in how he meets Eve. The overall story of it was just stupid as hell. I thought, Angel Masks, I saw the cover, it's Puppet. I thought we were going to get multiple puppet stories. That's what I thought we were going to get out of this. We get 1 puppet story out of 4, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. So diving in here, this first story is Angel Puppet in Mystery Date. The creative team on this story is... the writer is Jeff Marriott. The pencils and inks were done by Stephen Mooney, and the colors by Rhonda Pattison. Like I said, I like this story. It basically picks up right after the events of Smile Time.
Yeah.
Because the way Smile Time ends is that Nina and Angel are going to go out to breakfast. What were you going to say?
Yeah, Jeff Meredith, he has written several of the Angel stories. You're right. This kind of answers the question what was going to happen as they're going out to breakfast. But he's also been writing a couple of the Airwolf comics that I like.
I haven't gotten into the Airwolf stuff yet. I want to, but I just haven't.
I like his writing, and I like his sense of humor. So this kind of worked for me, and we're going to get into it. This is actually, out of all of them, this is going to be my number one favorite story.
Yeah. So we open with a monologue between Angel and Nina outside the diner here. And some guy comes up and says, "Oh, you look a little old to be playing with toys. Sure you can't handle a real man, sweetheart?" And next thing you see is somebody just punching him in the gut right away, and obviously it's Puppet Angel. And I can so hear Boreanaz in my head, What, you got something against little people, buddy? I can just it's like, stupid piece of crap. I can just so hear that. Like he even says when she's holding his hand in the next panel when they're walking away, stupid tall people.
I just love the mannerisms and the blocking and the facial expression and the little lightning cloud over his head as representing him being angry, because I have not seen that for about 30 years in comics. And that was usually in Looney Tune comics, so this was great.
Yeah.
But I also love how when they get into the restaurant, how he can't even get onto the booth. He's just he's climbing up, and it's just like, and you can even go like, just because a guy is little, vertically challenged, help me out here. Like he's trying to, you can almost see like this should have been a motion comic for him to get up on that booth. And then,
oh God! I know they'll never do this because I know the show is way past. We're 11 years after the show has ended. So I know they'll never go back and do a short or anything else. But if they can get Nina back and Puppet Angel back and adapt this story would be awesome to see adapted and hear Boreanaz and see the actress who played Nina.
Yeah.
As far as Nina's design in this, I don't mind it. It somewhat looks like her for the most part. I remember in the show she was a little bit more flat-chested than she is in here, but I'm not complaining. I think overall her look is fine. It's very similar to the actress that was on the show. So they're all they're sitting there talking about being able to get out and, talking about, she's saying that she promises she won't go all wolf girl and tearing out his stuffing again. And the waitress comes up and, they essentially order the same thing because he's a vampire, she's a wolf girl.
This actually, no, there was something else I really do love is that he didn't want to go to a Chinese place, I think, because his puppet hands couldn't maneuver the chopsticks.
Yeah.
I thought that was, it's clever, and yeah, they do kind of, she orders a hamburger like rare, and she, in bold, it's like rare. And
yeah,
he's like, yeah, same for me, but with fries and a chocolate shake. And she's like, but I want a green salad and an iced tea. So it's kind of like they're trying to order the same thing, but it almost feels like something out of a Howard Hawks movie. And as for the woman, is she supposed to be dressed as a devil, or she is a devil?
No, she's a lizard person, because the point of this diner is they don't ask a lot of questions. It's basically, think of it as Caritas, but in a diner sense, and there's no Lorne, essentially, is the way that I see this at this point.
Oh, okay.
So, so in this process, Angel says, salad sounds good, not as good as blood, which they don't serve here, but it's got to be finger foods for another couple of days. So, as I said, this story takes place after the events of Smile Time, and in the end of Smile Time, they said that or Fred said, or somebody said to Angel that he told Wesley or whomever it was, or he maybe told Nina that, you know, the puppet thing will wear off in a few days. So this pretty much picks up like the night that it, like in the early morning hours of that night that he was at the puppet studio, that he was at the Smile Time Studios. So, you know, absolutely love the continuity bits here. Again, the art's great. The colors, it's a diner. I mean, the diner scene isn't really like, I mean, it's got a 50s style black and white checkerboard and red benches in the booths. So, but the characters look great.
I do love how Nina, of course, goes into the bathroom because she's like, nature calls, and then she goes, no, not that way, just need to go to the ladies' room. Yeah, because she's going to be wolfing out, or at least that's what Angel thinks. Angel, of course, is making the best out of this again. Everything is like stupid menu, stupid straw, because he's got the puppet hands. Still bitter at the fact he's a puppet and can't maneuver anything. So I love how we get this moment where she comes out of the bathroom as a wolf. Angel thinks that Nina has...
Well, no, that's not necessarily true. A wolf comes into the diner. Like, we don't see where he assumes it's Nina. But in that panel, we don't see if the wolf came out of the bathroom because... but the whole thing with the drinks, for a second, that does not look like an iced tea or a chocolate shake. The one on the right there that's supposed to be the chocolate shake, that it looks like quicksand.
Or Ovaltine.
It's about drinking the same thing, I guess. So the wolf comes in, and he just assumes that it's Nina. And a big fight ensues. The diner window gets smashed, and they get outside, and he's like, "Settle down, Nina. Let's not make things worse than they have to be. Haven't you figured out yet, vampire? I am not who you think I am." And this thing morphs into something else, and actually morphs into Angel himself, and I love the panel where Angel says no. I love the little scratches on his face and the stuffing. That panel is amazing. When I first heard about this comic, I was like, as long as they get Puppet Angel correct on the art, I'll be happy. And they really, really do.
I want to reiterate what we've discussed with Smile Time a few months ago. I appreciate that they're trying to go back and make this into not only a 7-page short story, but they're making this into trying to almost bring back Angel, or it's IDW, so it's nostalgia at its finest.
Right.
I'm going to say the same thing that you're going to say. I think a lot of great minds are going to think alike on this. There was no reason why there should have not have been 4 Puppet Angel stories. I love how Angel is still bitter being a puppet. I love how Angel is saying stupid this and stupid that because he can't maneuver the puppet hands. It goes back to, I don't remember what we discussed with the Smile Time episode because I just...
It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't like listening to the sound of my own voice on the podcast, but it almost goes back to Child's Play, where Charles Lee Ray is Chucky. And Chucky complains that he can't do much because he's in a doll body, so... eventually he'll become anatomically correct because that's what the writers will finally decide to do with him because it's like 5 sequels later. But Chucky raises points. He's small. There's not much he can do with the hands. And I like that this story is thinking outside the box. But you just don't want to depend on that aspect. So now you have Nina, of course, which is the werewolf. And then you have the shape-shifting demon. And this is something that I was almost worried about because, again, I'm DC. I'm thinking Clayface, or I'm thinking the T-1000 from Terminator 2. But on the other hand, this is a great story where the shapeshifter pretends like angels turn back into human. And it does give the hints, of course, where he does non-angel things because he's not really studying what the real angel was about. Nina catches on, and he's starting Take Me to Wolfman and Hart, or
yeah, she catches on pretty quickly, and simply because he says, in a panel down the line here, he says, "Barless demon, destructive but not really dangerous. I guess maybe the stress of the fight caused me to change back sooner than I calculated." "Fred, you mean?" Nina says. "Huh? Sooner than Fred calculated. Whatever. Who are you? What do you think? What do you think? I'm Angel. Angel wouldn't have left the diner without paying for our drinks at least. He would have left a tip, and he'd know who Fred is." So Nina figures it out pretty damn fast. And the coolest thing is, after she figures it out, we cut back to the alley.
Yeah.
And I wish there was there is a close-up, but I wish there was a more, as I'm looking at this on Comixology in the guided view, I wish there was a close-up of the actual dumpster scene here. Stupid wheel.
I know it's stupid wheel. Yeah, his nose has come off again like Bert from Sesame Street. Yeah. But the thing is that he's able to speak perfect English with his nose off. It's not like stupid wheel, like that. It still works and everything.
Well, I think the thing with the writing here is with the stupid wheel is that because this is a comic and not David Boreanaz actually saying the line, because he does say that in the Smile Time episode. He says, "Look, my nose comes off." He actually does do that kind of voice, but here in the comic it wouldn't work. So it's nice to show that his nose came off again, but I don't think the writing would have effectively contributed to us realizing that, oh, hey, he's doing the voice again, because like you said, it's not like it's a motion comic with voiceover behind it, so which would have been awesome if they had done that.
I will say this much. I never get tired of when the puppets lose their nose because it's a running gag, and it's clean. I mean, it's a smart. The only thing I was still curious about again, because I had forgotten about this, he is able to maneuver the dumpster even though he's a puppet. I forgot. Does he still kind of have his supernatural powers, or
he never lost them?
He never lost them even as a puppet. Okay,
you got to remember. Okay, so when you remember the scene when he's got the sword on his shoulder and he's like, oh no, it's your time's up, or it's it's time to cancel you or whatever else, and he starts fighting in Smile Time, and I think he punches the lead puppet. I forget what the lead evil puppet's name is.
Yeah.
But he punches him, and the puppet punches him back, and he's like, "Oh, I see you got a little demon in you." And then his whole face changes to vampire mode. He's like, "No, I've got a lot of demons." So he never lost the fact that he was a vampire. So that's why he can move the dumpster, because he still has his vampire strength.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
yeah.
So he's running down an alley like Batman, making sure the damsel is okay. I mean, I swear to God, you put a blue cape on him, or give him a bat ear. It's just like a Batman thing. It's awesome, but
it's. I still love the facial expressions. The Muppets came back this fall. I know there was a show that sadly bombed on Fox, and it's a shame, Greg the Bunny. But I don't know what it is. There's always something about when puppets, when written the right way and performed the right way and voiced the right way and interacting with humans, I think it works for all ages. And there's something about, if even if this was a 10-minute special with the original cast just to put on YouTube or whatever the case may be, I would dig it, whether I be a fan of Angel or not. I just love how this puppet is interacting with the humans and interacting with other objects, and you can tell that it's not like a cartoony Angel. It just, I can see it in the eyes and the eyebrows that move up and down, and especially when he's looking for Nina, the way the hair is moving in the wind. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Angel runs after Nina, and he realizes he's too late, and he's like, Nina, nuts. And he's like, oh, this should do. He picks up a giant piece of glass and goes to find her, and does find her, and, more of the fight ensues, and Angel's like, did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Angel, what's going on? Grekel's a shape-shifting demon who used to be in Wolfram & Hart's client, but he's also a mass murderer so I cut him loose when I reviewed the client list. Since then, his businesses have been going downhill, and he's in some legal trouble. I'm guessing he wanted to get back into Wolfram & Hart, disguised as me, so he could dedicate the firm to solving his problems. Bad news, Grekel. It ain't happening. And like I said, more of the fight. Actually, Nina throws a punch, and we see Grekel's full form. He kind of looks like one of the demons from the Hell dimension where Angel had to go get the name for Jasmine in the end of Season 4. And they said I was no good at this client relations thing.
Again, we get exposition, and when Angel tells not only Nina, but I guess, if Grekel was on the show again, as stated, I never heard of this character. But
no, this is a character to this. I mean, it's specific to this story. It wasn't in the. They're just saying that he was probably an unseen character that, when Angel went through and, like, remember when he cut Hensley, the necromancer?
Yes.
That kind of helped Spike get whatever the hell Spike needed. Whatever. So what it's saying is that Angel went through the client list and cut a whole bunch of people because of what they did. And because Grekel was a mass murderer, he was one of the ones he cut. Never actually saw him in the actual television show. So he's a character that they are not necessarily expanding on here, but they're introducing you to him, and then they're giving you a reason. They're giving you exposition as to why he is here and why he is coming after Angel and, I almost said Angel and Fred, but Angel and Nina.
Makes sense. I mean, it's an interesting character. I mean, again, I go back to Clayface. I go back to the T-1000. And the shape-shifting, if done right, I should even say Mystique from X-Men. The shape-shifting character never gets tiring if done correctly, if there's a point to put the character in the story. Here, even though it's a 7-minute, whatever the case may be, because it took me about 7 to 10 minutes to read through all this, because that's what it felt like. It works. Even if this was a 22-minute or 44-minute episode, it still would work because at least there's a purpose to put a shape-shifting character with high stakes. The only problem is he's sloppy because he really didn't do too much research on what Angel's mannerisms or personalities.
Yeah,
which always sucks. Yeah, every shapeshifter does that. T-1000, Clayface, Mystique. It's like they can copy the voice and some mannerisms, but they don't know every single nook and cranny, and that's when it gets like... But the good thing is, we didn't get the they both look alike, no shoot him, no shoot him. We didn't get that, trope.
Yeah.
So I give kudos to that. I do love the changing of when Grekel, he starts to, like, the top of his head, like, becomes bubbly, and we get, like, it looks like teeth that are forming top of his head. And then, yeah, he turns into this, I guess, lizard creature thing.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. It's basically something like what the guys from the Dimension thing in the end of season 4 was, which is pretty cool.
I do love the facial expression though when he gets stabbed. It's just like he's almost like shrugging his shoulders and going like, "Can't blame the guy for trying." Wah wah.
Yeah.
It's like Nina she doesn't even turn into a werewolf. I figured she would get angry to turn into a werewolf, which would make sense. But no, apparently she just smacks him in the face, and then she blinds him. He tries to claw at her. Angel, of course, had gotten like this wooden spike to shove through his heart, and that was pretty much. And then Puppet Angel was just standing on the back of the dead Greco, and it's just like, okay, let's wrap things up like an '80s, action primetime show. It's like you sure know how to show a monster girl a good time.
Well, but see, that's the thing. Is like we needed something because their story in Smile Time didn't quite. It left it open for interpretation, and between Smile Time and the finale, Not Fade Away, there wasn't we didn't see Nina. We saw her. We didn't see her a whole bunch. Like the whole thing in Not Fade Away, which is the series finale of Angel overall. We open up and they're in bed together. And we hadn't really seen her too much since the whole breakfast thing at the end of Smile Time. So, I like the fact that she didn't turn into the werewolf girl because we already saw it. We know at this point. Because remember, this is taking place in a strict linear timeline. This is the same day. So she had already turned into a werewolf girl earlier and rip the stuffing out of him. So if you watch Smile Time and then read this is a direct continuation of the Smile Time story, except it has nothing to do with demon puppets taking over a children's television network. But it's one of those things where I thought this was a nice little end to the story before we eventually see her in the season finale, or the series finale of Not Fade Away. Overall, I liked Mystery Date. I thought it was kind of cool. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it.
I'm giving this one a solid 5. It gets a solid 5 for me for several reasons, like I said. I love the humor with them at the diner. It also reminded me again of that two Tales from the Crypt comic book stories, where a vampire and werewolf were dating, but the thing is that there wasn't going to be a full moon for a few weeks, and he was able to find ways to suppress his appetite for blood, and they were going to go out to a cabin in the mountains, and one was going to try to feast on the other, but they fell in love with each other. I love that. This is a great story. It's well drawn. It's got great dialogue. It's got great characteristics with the facial expressions, and Grekel's death is just comical. It's got that great ending. Great 5. Yeah, the end.
Mm-hmm. The second story is Illyria in Unacceptable Losses. This is by Scott Tipton and David Messina. So we open up and Illyria and Wes are training. So this takes place right after they shot her with the cannon thing to keep her from exploding to contain her powers. So she's pretty much a depowered demon at this point. And we open with Spike and Angel. Okay. The way I kind of view this is kind of like they're in Illyria and Wes are in the interrogation room, even though it's more of a dojo thing, and then Angel and Spike are in like the viewing room of the interrogation room, and like Spike's character looks somewhat like James Marsters here. Angel's really does not look like anything like David Boreanaz. I mean, I know it's the style of the artist and all that, but it just doesn't look right. I don't know.
This, to me, was fan fiction. Again, if you're not a fan of the characters or don't know much about the characters, this was a short one, but there's the depowered demon like the idea. To do research on demonology, which is a huge thing because, again, there seem to be tons of movies right now about it, and with Constantine getting canceled and trying to find its way on CW, it's understandable.
It's never going to get on a CW. There's too many other shows there now at this point.
Oh, you have no idea what I'm petitioning, my friend. But
no, don't even try.
But
Have it go to Netflix or Amazon or somewhere else.
Fine, I don't care. But my point being is that if you're going to discuss demonology, and that's fine, it works. But I think the problem I'm having, there's too much exposition. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you have it where it's supposed to be an action comic and you throw in too much of exposition, and it's only a few pages, because I have the Comixology as well, it doesn't work. It kind of goes from demon dogs and then that's it.
Yeah, it goes... Okay, so let's start at the demon dogs. So basically what happens here, folks, is that Illyria, Angel has a job for her. She has to go to Dickerson Waters Publishing to collect a debt that this guy owes Wolfram Hart. And Angel doesn't want Wes finding out that he's sending her on this mission, because Wes is still under the impression that, hey, this, Fred could come back and whatever else, and he kind of has feelings for Illyria, Fred, whatever. So she goes to this place. She fights the demon dogs, which I love that full-on splash panel of her going up against them, the blood red with them in the black silhouette. That's an awesome image. That's just great.
Oh, that you need to frame, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So she goes up against the demon dogs and wins. We go back to Wesley. He's doing some internal monologue here, and he's going through these books that Angel asked him to go to the library and look up. And he then calls back to Wolfram Hart and talks to Harmony. Doesn't quite look like Mercedes McNabb, but okay. She's only in one panel anyway. She basically tells him that, oh yeah, Illyria's not here, and he's like, oh, where is she? And we finally get to Dickerson Waters, or Walters, whatever, and apparently this guy's thing is he's some sort of publisher. I guess he's supposed to be a blonde, evil Hugh Hefner, or whatever, I don't know. And he basically captures the souls of people that he has photographed over the years. He puts Illyria in this weird, he says, are you enjoying that, sweetie? It's called a blade barrier. Those cuts you're no doubt feeling are the dozens of blades extruding from the inside and revolving around you. I like that effect. It's a nice effect, but he basically shows off his weakness right away. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, of course, I could never hold a creature as magnificent and powerful as you for long by myself. Luckily for me, I have help. And he shows the little jewel thing that's on his chest there. And I hate it when villains just give away their tells right away. It's like, oh my god.
We could have had My Name is Earl from Dogma going, like, I've seen too many Bond movies than to give away the plot just, before the movie's over. Yeah, I don't know why villains are doing this in the 21st century. I don't know why they feel that they're arrogant, that they have to explain everything, especially if they die off in 5 minutes, because then the plan never takes effect. I would like to see higher stakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just super... I like the Illyria story for seeing Illyria and Wes and all that, and I love the art on Illyria. I think she, out of all of the Angel characters in this story, is the one they really kind of got right, even though some of the shadow stuff with her, with the way that they show her body a few times, the way her outfit looks and whatever. So Wes eventually gets there and is like, yeah, I'm afraid business hours are over, bang, and he basically shoots the little soul thing, and all the souls come out, and Illyria gets free, and she's just ready to destroy this guy. So basically that's what happens. She, is about to rip out his thorax, and I think Wesley says something about, now the matter of our bill. We then go back to Wolfram and Hart, and we get, here's the recompense we are due. So it is, thank you. Is that a signature? I believe it started as one. His writing became more emphatic as I crushed his esophagus. Oh boy. Illyria walks out, and Wes is just looking like he's ready to kill somebody. He asks her, Illyria, you're limping, are you alright? I'm fine, I wish to be alone. And this is where he attacks Angel for sending her out there. And this is Wesley's emotions coming through with him wanting it to still be Fred. And the story ends on, and then when I get up and come back here, there she is. There she is. And it ends on just a whole thing of, an image of Illyria, who she has Illyria's hair, but the face is more Fred's face than Illyria. Because if you look at Illyria in the various panels in this story, she is more pronounced when, you know what I mean? And by the end of it, it's like, hey, there's Fred. Because Wesley is still obviously mourning over her. The third story deals with Cordelia Chase. Isn't she a higher being now, or didn't she die again? Anyway, this story takes place right after Doyle died and passed the visions to Cordelia in season 1 of Angel. So this is going to be pretty quick, folks, because while I love the art and the way that it's shown and how we see the old office building and Angel's little basement there thing, and as much as I love Cordelia, I hate the overall aesthetic of the art. And the story itself is just too silly.
It reminds me of Batman, Arkham, A Serious House, and Serious Earth. That artwork.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, because I think you had brought up on a few podcasts about a Batman comic that you read that disturbed you. I'm pretty sure it has to be Serious House on Serious. It's the only one I can think of. Because
no, this one was, I know what you're talking about. This was a full-on collection. This was like almost a 600-page thing.
Oh, okay.
But it always had the Batman thing I was talking about. Always had black borders around the pages, and the rest of the art was really dark. But this was like, I think it might have been. I don't even know. Whatever. We're not talking about Batman. But anyway, Angel. Cordelia, basically Clayface comes to kill Angel, or some thing that looks like weird Clayface thing, and attacks Cordelia. She runs downstairs. Angel's not there. She gets the weapons. She goes to fend this thing off. The one thing about the art I will say that I do like is, well, they didn't really capture Charisma Carpenter's image too well. I do like the image where she says, does it look like I'm running? I do kind of like that. That does kind of remind me of Cordy. She does end up running, and apparently this thing can track her by her smell. Again, I wish the Cordelia story was better. Like, if they had taken like any other aspect other than Angel's season 1 to tell a Cordelia story here, I just don't even care for it.
all I'm going to say is artwork, yes, but the story, the dialogue, yes, imagery, unless, the characters, it's just a girl running from a demon in the sewers, and then at the end...
I mean, I know the character. The writing is perfect. The writing gets her character down and all that stuff, and I understand where you're coming from, but... like, it just doesn't feel like it just doesn't feel like the right kind of story for this. Again, like we said earlier, why couldn't there have just been 4 puppet angel stories?
Well, at the end, she ends up looking fantastic in a red dress.
Yep.
So I guess that's the character, or whatever the case may be.
So we forgot to give ratings for Illyria, I think. Illyria, I'll give a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but it still had a few flaws. What about you for Illyria?
I have to go... split right down the middle. I think that's fair. There is the image with the silhouette with her fighting the demon dogs, the souls being released from the egg, the souls being, they were captured in the egg. But there's too much exposition, and again, a villain making a mistake 20 years ago about giving away the plot before he actually... And it just ends where whether it will or won't be a cliffhanger, depending on how well this book will sell, because I don't know what...
Well, this one's old. I mean, this Angel masks people. This is not a new book. This is a few years ago, because this is actually, if you look at the cover, it's the old IDW logo. So this came out a while ago. What about the Cordelia story? What are you going to rate that?
The Cordelia story, for the artwork alone, and I guess for some of the dialogue as imagery, which is not terrible for her running from this demon, I'm going to be fair. Even though I'm not a huge fan, I'm still going to be fair and give it at least a 3. And I guess the ending with her being snarky, I guess that's supposed to be the character.
Well, yeah, like I said, this takes place between, like, after season 1. Not after. It takes place during season 1 of Angel. Yeah, this issue, this little trade here, came out in 2006, so this is pretty old at this point. But the character itself, yeah, that is pretty much the character in the early seasons. This is because after Buffy ended after high school, her whole thing was, hey, I want to be an actress, so I'm going to go to LA and be an actress. And that's how she kind of opened up into the show with Angel. And then she became, Doyle died and passed her his visions. So the characterization, like, for me, the characterization of Cordy is fine in this. The writing is fine. It's just the art overall. And because of the art, there's only like 2 frames out of the entire story that I actually enjoy. I got to give this a 2.5 out of 5. The writing is good for her character, but the story in itself is just, no. So the final story, we have Lindsay McDonald, played by, Christian Kane. Lindsay McDonald in Pencils and Paper Clips. This is written by James Patrick, art by Sean Murphy and Rico Renzi. This is the worst story of the 4.
What makes you say that? Because there's really... I couldn't follow this. I thought this was like Demonology meets Office Space.
It is, kind of.
Yeah, I mean... It's pretty much just cubicles and bureaucrats and demons getting pissed off, asking for pencils or wanting pencils. And
see, I don't even like the one thing I do know where this story solely sets up how Lindsay met Eve. Now, you don't probably remember Eve, but Eve was the first senior partner liaison in season 5 of Angel. When they moved into Wolfram and Hart, Eve was the one that was there the whole time until episode 100 when Lindsay came back and all that stuff happened. And then after that, it was Adam Baldwin as Hamilton. So this story essentially happens after Lindsay basically failed Wolfram and Hart, but before episode 100 of the show. So the only thing this really serves is to introduce Lindsay to Eve. The rest of it, like, as much as I like Sean Murphy, I'm sorry, the guy should stick to covers and not interiors, because this guy that's supposed to be Lindsay or Lenny or whatever else, or really it's supposed to be Lindsay McDonald from the show, looks nothing like Christian Kane whatsoever. And it's just kind of lame. Like, the best part of it is when he meets Eve and goes through the whole thing with her. And we get the little exposition with them, the interactions with them. And thankfully, this one isn't that long, because it just doesn't.
I just had no interest. There was nothing. There's not one thing that held it, other than the fact that you have writers that have written for better stuff than this. It just was a great story. It was just... It wasn't even bizarre for the sake of being bizarre. It was just... I guess it's... Again, if it was a 7-minute cartoon or a 7-minute... whatever, it would probably work. But if you have Comixology like we do, you can highlight the writers. And you can, as I'm going through right now, everything else they've worked on, from Astro Boy to DC to other Angel comics to Doctor Who to Star Trek for IDW. Yeah, this final story, I don't even know. Should we go through it, or how do you want to do this one?
That is the Lindsay story was the final story. We just went through it.
Right, I mean, like, any...
I mean, but no, there's nothing, like, if it had been like a Lindsay and Lila story, or if it had been anything, like, I don't mind the fact that it was, the whole point of the story was how he met Eve. I don't mind that fact at all, but the rest of the story is just, it's just not good. It like you said, it's demonology meets Office Space, and it's like, you know, what the PC load letter? What the fuck does that mean? It's like, you know, just no. Other than the fact that he met Eve here, I gotta give this a 1 out of 5.
I'll give it a 1 out of 5 as well, because I guess there's just like, it tries.
I don't even think it tries. I just don't. Overall, I will give Masks for a collection of Angel stories, I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. The only reason why it even gets 2.5 is because it has the Puppet Angel story in it. If it didn't have the Puppet Angel story in it, we wouldn't even be reviewing it in the first place. What about you overall for the entire thing?
I'm actually surprisingly going to go 3.5, because if I'm averaging it out correctly, and I'm probably not, the Angel story I gave a 5. As for the second one, I gave a 2.5. For the third one, I believe I gave a 3, and this one I gave a 1.5. In fairness, if there were ever... I understand how old this comic book was, but if there ever were sequels, maybe for the second or third one, I would love to see a Puppet Angel collection or anthology or just something, even if it's just like a one-time thing. I know they would never do an annual thing, and that's a mistake, but I think the real money would come from Puppet Angel. There's just something about his snarkiness and how he has to deal with life as a puppet. Again, if the Muppets were able to come back this year, I think Puppet Angel could come back as well.
I do know, and maybe I should have done this instead of having the Mars Attacks thing, even though I love doing that with Nicole. I do know that there is something on Comixology called Spike Shadow Puppets. Collects the entire Spike Shadow Puppets miniseries plus bonus material. Angel once put a stop to an evil children's show, but not before being turned into a puppet. During his fight, now fresh out of the asylum, it's Spike's turn. Writer Brian Lynch and artist Franco Aruru, the creative force behind the all-new Angel After the Fall series, are reunited in this collection that sees Spike and Lorne heading off to Japan to stop the latest Japanese kids show, Smile Time. Will they become puppetized themselves and along the way find themselves in a fight with hundreds of ninja puppets? Reuniting with fellow asylum inmates and being extreme odds with one another? We're not telling, but yeah. Featuring cover gallery by Aruru and David Messina and annotations by Lynch. This came out just 3 years ago in 2012. The print release was 2008. So maybe we should have done this and the Angel Masks. I'll probably save Spike Shadow Puppets for next Halloween, most likely. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was... Angel Masks, it was okay. Like I said, and we've said already, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing me say this in the last 50 minutes of this episode, it should have been 4 Puppet Angel stories. Or it should have been just one long story of Puppet Angel and Nina, and whatever.
I go back to what I said to before, kids. With so many properties being mass-produced and mass-marketed, because I'm not saying everyone has run out of ideas. There's steampunk, there's demonology, there's witchcraft. I understand all that. You can get bombarded, but if you have the right writers and the right artists, believe me, there's one type of genre and one type of, I guess, demonology, paranormal, just meant for you. I enjoy demonology. I've always found it to be fascinating. I find the demons fascinating, but you have to find the right story. Vampires, I've been through why I'm not a fan of vampires or werewolves, but I think there's hope, and I think that, you know what, I'll say it a million times more. I'll dive back into this if there's ever going to be something regarding Angel. There's the writing's not terrible. I'll give it that. It's definitely not a waste of your time.
Yeah. All right, folks. I will be back in a moment to close the show out after this.
Hello, geeks and geekettes! Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks, every Friday on the GeekCast Radio Network.
A female He-Man! Oh, this is the worst day of my life!
We've told the tales of Eternia, and now we head to a different dimension to explore the myths of Etheria. Join Optimus Solo and TFG and Mike as they continue their Mo2 journey by exploring She-Ra, Princess of Power. 35 podcast episodes covering the entire run of She-Ra, the Christmas special, and more. You can find Myths of Etheria on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com. For the honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
It's Showtime Synergy. The latest review podcast from the GeekCast Radio Network is here. So join TFG1 Mike, Nicole Hailstorm, and myself, Lady Rec, as we will be reviewing all 65 episodes of Joe and the Holograms in a 25-episode-long podcast. You can find Showtime Synergy on iTunes and geekcastradio.com. We are the truly outrageous podcast that you want to be listening to.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Halloween episode for the Pull Bag. I am TFG and Mike. You can follow, I believe it's at Hunnick Outcast or at Hunnick Outcasts on Twitter. You can find Jeremy's show on iTunes, on the GCRN. You can find it on, I don't know if he's on SoundCloud or not, I don't remember. Nicole, you can find her on Twitter at Beatlesdiva. That's Beatles like the band, not the bug. I'm, of course, at TFG and Mike. You can follow at GeekCast Radio on Twitter. Look for us on Facebook. Head on over to geekcastradio.com. The not-so-Halloween episode worked out fairly okay, I think. I think next year I'll be a little bit more prepared. This is the first time I've done a Halloween episode for the Pull Bag, folks, but, you know, it could have been all Scooby-Doo comics. Who knows? You know. But next week, we've got a double shot. Next Wednesday will be episode 114 of the Pull Bag, which will be myself, Lady Rec, Beatlesdiva, Nicole Beatlesdiva, and Hahi Prime, a.k.a. Heather. We're going to be doing Transformers Last Stand of the Wreckers, and we have some awesome audio clips that Neil Ross gave to me for this specific review. And then Thursday, November 5th, 2015, marks 60 years since Dr. Emmett L. Brown, discovered and invented the flux capacitor, which would eventually invent the best time-traveling vehicle ever, the DeLorean, and all this and all that and everything else. So Steve Megatron and I are going to be reviewing IDW's Back to the Future number 1 of 4 next week on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Make your great escape into comics. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We are well on our way to the end of the year. I do not know if the Pull Bag is going to do a year-end top comic kind of thing, but I do know that the GCRN year-end review show is going to be coming up as well, so the comics will at least be in that. So if anyone wants to give me some input on that kind of thing, if you want, I do have top lists planned for the Pull Bag. I just don't have an end-of-the-year list planned. So, yeah. Make your greatest game into comics, and I will catch you next time.
You've just heard the latest episode of the Pull Bag, the GCRN's comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching GeekCast Radio Network. Send us an email feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at GeekCast Radio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.